Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us on Zoom. This is going to be a popular challenge. So this voter registration challenge hearing is called to order. I am Mary Hall, Thurston County Auditor, and I will be presiding over today's hearing. This hearing was properly noticed on the Thurston County webpage and posted on August 21st, 2020. This is a voter registration challenge hearing being held pursuant to Chapter 29A08 RCW, or the Revised Code of Washington. This challenge relates to the voter registration of C. Davis. The challenger is Andrew Saturn, who is a registered voter. Today is Thursday, August 27th, 2020, and the time, according to my phone, is exactly 3:01 p.m. So this hearing is being recorded electronically. I'd like to introduce the staff that are present. I have my Elections Division Manager, Tilly Naputi-Puller, my Elections Supervisor, Lynette Milton, and Elections Technician, Lynn Watanabe. I also have my Education and Outreach Specialist, Emmett O'Connell, and Executive Assistant, Kathleen Bright, acting as clerks. Also present is my Chief Deputy Prosecuting Attorney, Elizabeth Petrich, who is counsel to the Auditor's Office. Is Challenger Mr. Saturn present?
I'm here, yeah. I just don't have.
Thank you. So let the record reflect that the challenger is present. Is the challenged voter C. Davis present? Is C. Davis present?
Hello.
Okay. So let the record reflect that the voter is also present. The challenge was initiated pursuant to RCW 29A.08812-2, which allows a person's right to vote to be challenged by another registered voter. The challenger contends that the voter does not live at the residential address shown in the voter registration records. The address for C. Davis is in the current voter registration record is 1211 4th Avenue East, Olympia, Washington, 98501. The challenger has not provided what he thinks is the voter's actual residential address. So the challenge was initiated by the filing of a voter registration challenge affidavit on August 21st, 2020. Notification of this hearing was provided to the challenger and to the challenged voter via certified letter dated August 21, 2020. Residence for the purpose of voter registration is defined by RCW 29A.04.151 as follows. Residence for the purpose of registering and voting means a person's permanent address where he or she physically resides and maintains his or her abode. A person who lacks a traditional residence will be registered to vote pursuant to 29A.08.112 and assigned a precinct based on the location provided. No person registering to vote who meets all the qualifications of a registered voter in the state of Washington shall be disqualified because he or she lacks a traditional residential address. A voter who lacks a traditional residential address will be registered and assigned to a precinct based on the location provided. For the purpose of this section, a voter who resides in a shelter, park, motorhome, marina, unmarked home, or other identifiable location that the voter deems to be his or her residence lacks a traditional address. A voter who registers under this section must provide a valid mailing address and must still meet the requirements in Article 4, Section 1 of the state constitution that he or she live in the area for at least 30 days before the election. Under RCW 29A.08.810 and RCW 29A.08.112, registration of a person as a voter is presumptive evidence that his or her right to vote. The burden to prove otherwise is therefore upon the challenger. Pursuant to RCW 29A.08.844, the challenger must prove by clear and convincing evidence that the voter's registration is improper. So the singular issue for me to decide is whether or not the address on C. Davis's voter registration is the location of C. Davis's traditional or non-traditional residence. So this hearing is held in order to allow both parties, the challenger and the voter, to present their facts and arguments. As a preliminary matter, I will ask the auditor's election staff to present the evidence the auditor's office has on file with respect to C. Davis's voter registration record. Secondly, the challenger, Andrew Saturn, will present their case. Then the challenged voter, C. Davis, may present his case. Mr. Saturn will then have an opportunity to respond solely on the issues raised in C. Davis's case. Either party may call witnesses, present documentary evidence, or both. If either party calls witnesses, the opposing party will be permitted to cross-examine those witnesses. And in addition, I may ask questions of any of the witnesses as well. All testimony will be under oath. So the way this will work is each party will be given 15 minutes to present their case. And because the challenger carries the burden of proof, he will be allowed, if he wishes, an additional 10 minutes at the close of the voter's case in order to respond solely to issues raised in the voter's testimony. The formal rules of evidence do not apply to this hearing. Evidence, including hearsay evidence, will be admitted if, in my judgment, it's the kind of evidence on which reasonably prudent people are accustomed to rely on in their conduct in affairs. I must exclude evidence that is excludable on constitutional or statutory grounds or on the basis of evidentiary privilege. I may exclude evidence that is irrelevant, immaterial, or unduly repetitious. After both sides have made their presentation, the record will be closed and the hearing will be adjourned. So I'll review the facts and arguments, including any evidence submitted by the parties prior to issuing my decision. If the challenger fails to prove by clear and convincing evidence that the registration is improper, the challenge must be dismissed. So I don't anticipate ruling orally today. I will issue my written decision not later than 14 days from today. However, I will work to complete my review and issue any decision as soon as possible. So my decision is subject to judicial review as provided in RCW 29A.08.846. So before we proceed to hear the parties' cases, I will enter the following documents into the record as evidentiary exhibits. The voter registration challenge affidavit dated August 21st, 2020. The supporting documentation provided with the affidavit. The voter registration record of C. Davis dated 3/20/2018. Confirmation that Andrew Saturn is a registered voter. And the certified letters sent to the voter and the challenger regarding the dates of the hearing. So we'll now proceed to the presentations. So Tilly Naputi-Puller, Lynette Milton, and Lynn Watanabe will be sworn in. So if you could please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? And if you could state your name, please.
I do. Lynn Watanabe.
I do. Lynette Milton. I do. Tilly Naputi-Puller.
Okay. You may present the evidence.
Thank you, Auditor Hall. If I could have Kathy show or display the document. So what you have in front of you, Auditor Hall, is the voter registration challenge form that was received by Mr. Andrew Saturn. If you can continue on to the next page, Kathy. The form itself included a declaration, a part of the declaration was also the news release that we had sent in regards to today's Zoom meeting. In addition to the Zoom news release, we also included voter registration challenge on this voter registration challenge on our website at thurstonvotes.org. What you see in front of you is a copy of the letter, certified mail, that was emailed and sent to Mr. C. Davis at the mailing address that's provided here. Included in this letter is his declaration that we ask that he complete. The form that you see right now is a form that we did that we received, which is similar to what we showed you in the first page. The attached information that you see there is an email that we received from Mr. Andrew Saturn. Go ahead, Kat, continue on. The second page, or this next page that you see, is the letter that we did send to Mr. Saturn, letting him know that we have processed his voter registration challenge to Mr. C. Davis, and that those enclosed documents were included with the certified mail. And we also mentioned to Mr. Saturn that a hearing in regard to the challenge is scheduled for today, August 27th at 3 p.m. Continue on, Kathy, thank you. The next thing that we provide you, Auditor Hall, is the RCW 29A08810 that talks to challenges for voter registration. Continue on, Kathy, thank you. And again, that's RCW 29A08. What's also included here is a clearinghouse from the Secretary of State's office that talks to voters without traditional residential addresses. And then I'm going to turn the floor over to Lynette Milton, who discussed this next page here that shows the voter registration form for Mr. C. Davis.
Okay, what you have in front of you is the registration form filled out by C. Davis at our office on March 20th, 2018. And this is an example of a non-traditional residential registration form. At any time when a voter comes to our office and wants to register to vote, and they do not have a residential address, they are given the option to use a non-traditional address if they are homeless or otherwise displaced or do not have a permanent residence. The voter can then give us either many different options: a park, a shelter, or more commonly used, the cross street where they spend most of their time if they are moving around. And in this case, you can see the cross street was given of 4th and Puget. That cross street is then used to be able to precinct the voter with the non-traditional address into a precinct in order to vote. And they must have a mailing address which was provided in order to receive their ballots.
Lynette, did you assist this person when registering? Can you explain what our system would do if you entered the 2103 Harrison?
At the time, the system that we had, when that was entered in by the person who did the data entry, which was not myself, it would flag as a business or a private mailbox is what it is. And so it would have flagged the system. And so the person assisting would then try to just, receive or get that residential address if they don't. And then if they do not have a residential address, that is when the option is to help by finding a cross street or a park.
Thank you. Okay, I don't have any other questions. So at this time, I would like to swear in Andrew Saturn. So Andrew, and you can quit sharing the documents. Please raise your right hand. Do you not have a camera, Andrew?
I don't have a camera, but I can attest that I'm raising my right hand.
Okay, then what I will do is have you repeat after me, or no, we'll just do it the same way we did staff. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? And if you could please state your full name.
Andrew Saturn, and I do.
Okay. The meeting is yours.
My name's Andrew Saturn. I'm a former Socialist candidate for Thurston County Public Utility Commissioner in 2018. I currently serve as the treasurer of the Puget Sound Socialist Party, as well as a federal appointee to the Selective Service Board. I'm bringing this challenge because while I believe everyone deserves a right to vote regardless of whether they're houseless or in unstable housing, I also believe individuals who are lying about their name or where they actually live are effectively stealing a vote from someone else in that district. Our state laws clearly define such activity as voter fraud, which is a Class C felony. It's not the goal of my challenge to change the results of the primary election or to assist one candidate or the other for their bid for Thurston County Commissioner. In fact, it's my understanding that the outcome of this hearing won't actually promote one candidate up the ballot or anything like that, or actually change the ballot itself. My goal here is to simply prove that voter fraud is being committed. So while I understand there are laws that allow houseless individuals or those with unstable housing to use a residential address that may be non-standard, such as an intersection, and a mailing address, such as a PO box, I don't actually think that's what's going on in this situation. C. Davis is not actually, and I will say one thing, I was actually surprised that that's what is on his form. I was not informed that he used a non-residential address. My understanding was that he actually registered to vote at the office building. However, I did include in my complaint further evidence. C. Davis owns a house at 1263 Bigelow Avenue Northeast, where he has likely lived for the past 10 years. I did submit evidence of former tenants saying that he did live there and refused to receive mail there because he didn't want a paper trail, which is a quote that they shared with me. So again, while I understand the whole non-standard address thing, I think what's going on here is C. Davis is taking advantage of that system in order to conceal where he actually lives, which apparently now seems to be at 1263 Bigelow. I did submit other evidence, such as police reports, code enforcement notices, things like that, which are all delivered to 1263 or had police or other officials responding to 1263. And C. Davis was there on the property. So my original argument was going to be that C. Davis doesn't live in that office building, but it seems like that's how the system registered C. Davis based on the intersection, and C. Davis never actually registered to vote at that office building. So I'm going to skip past that part and just simply state that I did submit evidence, and I don't know if I need to go over that now. But going back to, there's a police case from 2009 regarding a stolen drum set where C. Davis was listed as living at that address. And there's also, I submitted evidence from a statement from a former tenant around that same time period up until, I believe it was 2012, that C. Davis lived in an upstairs unit. And again, wanted that to be off the record so that there was, quote, no paper trail. Mr. Davis also has parked his van there on what I would call a daily basis, which leads me to believe that's where he actually lives. And at this time, I don't have further evidence to submit, but I do actually have a witness. Someone contacted me, a man named Arthur, who said he had some information to share. And I don't know how this works since it's not really a court case, but I don't know if that would happen now or after C. Davis responds.
You can call a witness if that's what you choose. I am timing this though, so
How much time is left?
it's like 7 minutes.
Okay, so I'd like to go ahead and call Arthur
Mills.
Arthur Mills contacted me today. And I don't know how much time he'll need, but the remainder of this period of time is fine with me.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
I'd like to read the oath. If you could raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? And if you could state your name one more time, please.
I do. Arthur M. Mills, Jr.
Thank you. You may continue.
Ma'am, I'm a private investigator out of Lacey, Washington. I was contacted by a concerned citizen, and it wasn't Mr. Saturn, about who is C. Davis and where does he live. I've been working on this for 2 days, so I've came up with more questions than answers, but I think these questions and the limited answers I have are very important for this meeting. So who is C. Davis and where does he live? Where he lives depends on who's C. Davis. A comprehensive background check conducted on 25 August reveals 24 aliases and imposters. An alias could just be a different name, like me, Arthur, it could be Art. An imposter is somebody who shares a social security number, and it's a completely different identity. So an alias is somebody that's the same person, an imposter is somebody who's different. C. Davis has 24 of them. For instance, he has the one he uses the most often is a name I can't even pronounce. It's spelled CMYNAMEISC.
If I could cut in really quick, that's C. My name is C. Davis.
Right. Yeah. You just stole my thunder there. But yeah, so it spells out C. My name is C. Davis. Along with that, those 24 imposters and aliases, they all point, or a great majority of them point to the Bigelow Avenue house and the P.O. box on Harrison Avenue, all interlinked. In fact, some of the imposters have aliases who are imposters of other imposters. So it is extremely convoluted. And if you look at these names and the dates, to me, with 26 years of experience, it's just telling me that there is fraud or there's something that there's hiding. The very first alias or name that I come up with was Shelley Sidney Frank, a female that in 2003 requested to change the name to C. Shelley Frank Davis, which is an imposter using the same social security number as C. My name is C. Davis. All of these imposters and names and dates and addresses all point to the one common entity here that has the most in degrees as far as link analysis is the Bigelow Avenue. On August 25th, I did a surveillance mission at the Bigelow address. And even though it was 1 a.m, I did not identify C. Davis, but his vehicle was parked in the grassy dirt area outside his that residence. A comprehensive background check on that particular house shows that he is an owner of the house, but not a legal resident, or at least not a current resident, but he was a previous resident. Looking at the patterns of how these dates match, it appears, in my political or my professional opinion, is he was a resident of this house, changed the utilities, two residences moved in as renters, and then he continued to live there since he still is registered as an owner there. And I myself, along with Mr. Saturn, has seen his vehicle there. And so again, it's who he is all depends on which address and which of the 24 identities that he has. So like I said, this is still an ongoing investigation. This is just 2 days into it. But my concern, though, is the many Shelley, Frank, Davis. There's even other female names early on, all changed to male names, then back to female names, different addresses. So my concern is there is something here, and it all points that C. Davis, or whatever name that he's going by right now, points to Bigelow Avenue.
Okay, we
That's
have
all I
1
have now.
minute left. Is that all? Okay. You have 1 minute, Andrew, if you would like to say anything else.
Yeah, I would just like to clarify that my big concern here is that C. Davis has a traditional house. C. Davis is not homeless. As you can see right now, C. Davis is in a room somewhere. I believe C. Davis lives at that Bigelow house on the 2nd floor, as I provided in evidence. I think C. Davis is moving his webcam around right now. But anyway.
30 seconds.
I'm sorry. I object to someone abusing, using, or implying that they are homeless in order to commit voter fraud, and that's what this is about for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. With 20 seconds to spare. Okay, C. Davis, can you please raise your right hand? And I know I can see you on now it's your turn. Okay. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? And if you could please state your full name for the record.
My name is C. Davis. I was told that this hearing was concerning whether or not I lived at 1211 4th Avenue East. And I was told that that was in fact the only issue at the hearing. So a point of question, Mary, is that the issue that we're here to discuss?
Voter registration law says that you must
Can
be
you hear me?
registered where you, yes, I can. Can you hear me? Voter registration law requires that you be registered
Yes.
where you reside. So yes, that is the question that we are dealing with today.
So obviously, I do not live at 1211 4th Avenue East, nor have I ever stated that I lived at 1211 4th Avenue East. As was stated earlier, I came into the auditor's office March of 2018 because it was necessary for me to address an issue.
Can I stop and back up 1 moment? I don't recall hearing you say that you affirmed that you would tell the truth. Can we do that one more
I
time?
did. Yes, I did.
Okay, can staff confirm that for me, please?
Auditor Hall,
Yes.
when he started, he said that he is C. Davis, and that's what I heard.
Okay, can you affirm that you're going to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, please?
I affirm that I will tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So help
Thank
me
you.
God.
Okay, thank you. You may
That's
continue
with
and
a
I'll give
capital
you,
B, by the way.
I'll give you your minute
Just to
back.
clarify, a Christian God.
Okay, you may continue.
Okay. So it is my understanding that this proceedings is to address the issue of whether or not I live at 1211 4th Avenue East. That's what the notification of hearing stated, and that's what your office stated to me. I was in your office as recently as this morning, and I've been in contact with your office all week. So as far as the address 1211 4th Avenue East, I do not live at that address, nor have I ever claimed to live at that address. That address, 1211 4th Avenue East, was created as a non-traditional address by your office. When I went into your office in 2018, I had not received the ballot from you for 2 years. Your office had, for reasons that were not made evident to me, failed to send me a ballot starting in 2016. I had to download my ballots off of the internet in order to exercise my constitutional right to vote. In 2018, I went into your office to find out why that was the case, and they said, oh, well, we started sending your ballots to a 20-year-old address rather than to my post office or my PMB, where I have received my ballot for probably 25 years.
Can you tell me what that
But for
address
some
was,
reason,
sir?
they had an address. I can't offhand. It was somewhere in the 500 block of 4th Avenue. And it was an address they said they had on record as of 1995, which was shortly after I came to town. So it's entirely possible that I stayed at somebody's house there. I really just don't know. It's 25 years ago. But my address had for almost 25 years been the PMB on the west side, which is still currently my mailing address. So I went in there to figure out why I wasn't getting the ballot. They said why I wasn't getting it because they'd sent it to a 20-year-old, 25-year-old address. And I said, well, that's no good. And they said, well, what do you want to change your address to? And I said, well, I don't really know. I don't really know where I want to change my address to. I just want it sent to my mailbox like it's been for 25 years. And they said, well, okay, that's fine. We can do that. Just give us a couple of cross streets and we'll create an address for you. And I said, well, that seems kind of hinky. Are you sure that's okay? And they said, yeah, it's a non-traditional address and it's just fine. You just give us 2 streets near where you are and we'll create an address. I still think it's hinky. And I think that that's probably something that should be addressed when we look into all myriads of, illegal alien voting and voter fraud and non-existent people voting. Maybe that's
Please
not a
stick
good
to the
system. But they
topic.
said choose. Excuse me, Mr. Pluto. I mean, Mr. Saturn did not stick to the narrative. And by the way, I've gone through the 200 or some odd pages of character assassination, slander, libel, harassment that he has perpetrated. And so, I mean, it's a good thing that this hearing is only confronting whether or not I live at that address, because his actions here are definitely actionable in a court of law, and they will be actioned. So as far as I have just said, I did not create that 4th Avenue address. It was created by the auditor's office. So I believe that's the issue to be addressed. in this hearing, and I don't think that I don't unless you feel that there's another issue that needs to be addressed. I think that's the only thing that this hearing was supposed to concern itself with.
Can I ask you where you reside, please?
It depends on the time. When I came in 2018, I was staying with a friend. But I do own a rental unit. It's a duplex, and I use part of it for storage. Sometimes I stay there, sometimes I don't. It is as far as the legal definition of residency is concerned, I do not consider that to be a permanent residence. Even though I may stay there from time to time, even if I stay there often, it is not a permanent residence. It's an investment property. There are 2 units there. 1 unit has been consistently rented for 22 years to, I can't tell you how many different tenants. By the way, Mr. Saturn has, in his documentation, violated the privacy rights of numerous of my tenants by publishing the majority of their social security number and by identifying their mental health issues. I have tenants with mental health issues.
Excuse me, Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis, please, Mr. Davis. This is not a hearing about the challenger. This is a hearing to determine where you reside. You are saying you do not reside at the 4th Avenue address. So to be a registered voter, we have to have you registered where you reside. Please answer that question.
No, I have a non-traditional address, which means I can stay in my rental unit, which is used for storage if I need to, or I can stay with friends if I choose to. That's the definition of residency. That's the definition of a non-traditional address.
So for precincting purposes, sir, where do you reside?
I just got done telling you, it varies depending on the time. I might go to the Bigelow address tonight, but as I said, in 2018, I was staying with a friend. So it depends on the time where I stay. That's an investment property. I do not consider it a permanent home. I'm also working on it, trying to, working on it so it can be rented out.
For precincting purposes, as I mentioned earlier, I need to precinct you where you reside. Where do you currently reside?
Yeah, so that was a good question raised by people here. So where do homeless people reside?
They tell us where they reside. If they're under the 5th Avenue Bridge, then we would precinct them in that location.
I live in the general area. It depends on who I'm staying with. If I'm staying at my storage place, which is what I'm calling my rental, which is under work, then sometimes I stay there. Sometimes I don't. It is not a permanent full-time residence. That's why we have cross streets. That's why it is non-traditional.
Okay, let me ask you one more time to determine where we precinct you, where do you reside? And in looking at your voter history, you voted in 2016, 2017, and 2018, sir.
Yeah, and I voted in 2014 and 2012 and 2020 and 2008. I voted in 2006, 2004. I voted going back to the mid-90s. What's that point?
Well, sir, we have to,
Oh,
we
and
have
by
to
the way,
register you where you reside. So I need an answer from you of where you reside for us to assign a precinct to you, sir. Otherwise, we can't send you a ballot.
That's
We
right.
don't know what candidates to put on the ballot we mail to you.
in fact, when I went in 2018, you asked me for cross streets, and I gave you cross streets. That was Puget and 4th Avenue. Those are the cross streets I gave you. Those are the cross. There's nothing inaccurate about that. That's what you would do to anybody else who came in there with a non-traditional address. You're implying that some people are entitled to a non-traditional address and other people aren't.
Oh, no, I'm asking you where we should precinct you. So do I hear you saying that we should precinct you at
Right
Puget and
where you
Fort?
are, fine.
Okay,
Yes. Yes.
I have no further questions.
I stand by what I came in 2018, what I came in and signed and filled out.
Okay, do you have anything else?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Saturn, you have 10 minutes to reply to the voter's case. Please limit your reply to the points made in the voter's case, and please do not raise new issues.
Thank you. So Mr. Davis mentioned slander and libel and releasing private information. Everything I submitted is a public record, whether it's from the city of Olympia or the police or court records. These weren't things that I'm not sneaking out people's social security numbers or anything like that. These are records anyone could get. So I would just like to correct that. As to the issue for the address, though, whether or not the 1211 4th Avenue East address or an intersection near there is where C. Davis has claimed he lives, neither of those are where C. Davis lives. C. Davis lives at a house at 1263 Bigelow Avenue Northeast. That is according to eyewitnesses going all the way back to 2009. That's where he spends the majority of his time. The reason I brought up previously that he may not live there is because he was registered, and I believe this is just a confusion by the system, at that business. If he's claiming he doesn't live at the business, well, then my point is he can't live on a street corner. If he's spending the majority of his time in a house, who would spend 49% of their time at a house and 51% of their time on a street corner? Again, this is trying to take advantage of a system invented to protect houseless people's right to vote. And I think that is voter fraud. As I said, former tenants told me that C. Davis was there late into the night practicing music in the second story unit. C. Davis himself admitted it's a duplex. He admitted he owns it. He admitted he stays there sometimes. He doesn't explain how often sometimes is. Again, if I were homeless and I owned a house and I had the option of staying there, I would not be homeless. I don't think any homeless person you talk to would choose staying on the street versus staying in a house that they own. I've submitted photo evidence of Mr. Davis parked there all hours of the day and night. Other individuals have said Mr. Davis lives there. My witness, Arthur Mills, has records going back over a decade that C. Davis lives there. And there are public records of police responding to C. Davis, calling them for various things like vandalism or trespassers or quote unquote anarchists in the park across the street. There was a call for someone bumping into C. Davis's van and leaving some damage. Again, to conflate this issue of whether it's a street corner or a business with a specific residential address is to avoid the real issue here, which is that C. Davis is lying about where he lives depending on when you ask him, and in doing so is committing voter fraud. So per my evidence submitted yesterday, there's a police report, I believe it was 2009, where C. Davis lied multiple times. It's explained in the narrative for probable cause by the officer. Multiple times about a drum set. First, it was, oh, I bought the drum set in 1996. Then when the officer said, well, this wasn't manufactured until 2006, C. Davis said, oh, I meant 2006. And then the officer said, well, actually, this specific drum set was manufactured in 2008. C. Davis continued to lie and change the story. C. Davis went so far as to say that he has a receipt and he sent the receipt to the police.
That was a bold-faced lie.
Again, I'm not trying to...
Please, this is not your time, Mr. Davis.
I'm not trying to
somebody mute him, please?
I'm not trying to relitigate what happened or bring up anyone's past. That's not my purpose. The reason I'm bringing that up, I submitted it as evidence. It shows a clear pattern that Mr. Davis will just change the story depending on what you bring up to, in the face of clear evidence. C. Davis, just for the clarification, was not the person who stole the drum set. It was a case of someone else had stolen it and C. Davis purchased it. But my point is, C. Davis lied to the police about every little detail, every step of the way, all the way up to claiming he had a receipt. And at the very end of the narrative by the officer, it says C. Davis never actually provided the receipt. We never received it. So again, I think the evidence I've supplied shows that C. Davis can't be taken at his word in terms of where he actually lives. And the evidence to any reasonable person would show that C. Davis likely lives at the Bigelow residence. I believe if C. Davis wants to claim he doesn't live there, it should be required that he provides some sort of evidence that he doesn't actually spend his time there, because the evidence I provided shows that he does. And that's all I have right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both for your presentations. The record is now closed, and I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the hearing. So I will review the matter in issue. I'll issue a written decision in 14 days. And I will mail the decision to both parties. I will try to get it sooner than 14 days though, for the sake of my staff. So with that, this hearing is adjourned.